Hi friends, welcome to Unit R Day 4. This is the factoring packet. Today we're working on page 7. This is the 2 or 3 terms. This is when we have basically an A term that's other than 1. When factoring, always check for a GCF. So again, checking for a GCF first. If you have 2 or 3 terms, check for those perfect squares, those perfect cubes. Then check to see if you have the x squared plus bx plus c pattern. So that pattern is, an x squared with a leading coefficient of other than 1, some term with the x, and then a constant term. So what we're going to do in this is the section that I was talking about in an earlier set of notes where we really want to talk about what it is to factor the coefficients. Knowing the factors of the coefficients is going to make your life so much easier. Again, this is a different method than the A times C method or the big X method that you may have learned from a previous instructor. So just to really jump into what's going on here, the steps behind it, you want to find the factors of your A term. So with 6, again, 1 and 6, 2 and 3, we talked about how you go in order. And then for 3, it's 1 and 3, ignoring the negative sign. So even though this is a negative 3, we ignore that when we find the factors because when we set up the parentheses, we know what signs we're going to have. Because in this case, we have plus minus. So because we have the last term being negative, we know that we're going to have one positive and one negative. So the next thing that we do after we find the factors, we list the factors of the first and last terms. That's what I did. Then we find the right placement to give you middle terms of 7x. Now, I want to show that the terms that go on, the terms that are in the A spot go in the beginning part of the terms. So we have, like for 6, 1 and 6 and 2 and 3, that's what would go in your first part of each binomial. So that would go here. Now, the final answer for this one happened to be 2x and 3x. And then for your last terms, 1 and 3, those go in this kind of second spot here in each of the binomials. And then we check with FOIL or table method or whatever you prefer to see which one gives you the right combination. With this one, what I would do is I would slot in your last terms first, 1 and 3, and then I would try these other ones to see what would work. Now again, this is like, this looks like the I guess and check sort of method. And it isn't, because as you do these, you become more knowledgeable in the number sense pattern, and it really makes sense with what's going on. So let's jump into number 7. So we have 4m squared minus 16m plus 15. So the first thing that I want to do is I want to set up my parentheses and my signs. So because we have a positive in the last part, then I know that this is going to be negative, 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 negative. And I know that my variable here is m, so I'm going to fill in that for that as well. Now, next thing I'm going to do is list my factors of my first and last terms. So for my factors, I know for 4 I have 1 and 4. And then 2 and 2. And then my factors of 15 are going to give me 1 and 15. And 3 and 5. So now I'm playing with these numbers and the different combinations to see which one's going to give me a middle term of negative 16. So if I think about this, with 1 and 4, that would be my terms in the leading coefficient part, 1 and 4. If I have that, and I'm using this pink, I know that I may be erasing it. I know for sure I'm erasing it because I'm picking one that I am fairly confident is not going to work. And then, like 1 and 15, for example, what I have here with this part, if I take 1 and 4, that's 4m squared, that's the first part. 1 and negative 15, so that's a negative 15. And then a negative 4, that's negative 19. So I know that's not going to work. Okay, so I've checked that one. So I can check, and in this case, I don't need to check flipping the 15 and the 1 because that would give me the same result. So let's check, if I do 1 and 4, let's keep those. Now let's check the 3 and the 5. Let's see what happens here. So if I do, let's see, that's 3, negative 3 times 4m is going to give me negative 12m, and then negative 5 is negative 17m. Oh, that won't work. So now let's change the 1 and 4 to a 2 and 2. So now I have negative 3 times 2, so that's going to be a negative 6m. And then 2m times negative 5 is going to be negative 10m. If I combine those together, that gives me a negative 16m. So this is the one that actually works. I'm going to go over it with green so you can see it better. So 2m minus 3, and then 2m minus 5. Now, there was one that I avoided checking. It didn't come up with this one. It'll come up in a later one. So just kind of knowing the patterns in the number sense will help you catch which factors will work for which. The next one I want to do is 13. So down here. So with 13, with 24x squared minus 26x plus 6, again, check for a GCF first. Always check for a GCF first. So for this one, there is a GCF. I can factor a 2 out of all of these. So if I do that, I am left with 12x squared minus 13x plus 3. So then now I'm finding the factors of 12 and 3 instead of my 24 and 6. So 1 and 12, 2 and 6, 3 and 4. So again, those are going to be the first terms in my parentheses. And then the factors of 3 are 1 and 3. Didn't look good. It's helpful to write legibly, especially if you're a teacher. People like to actually read what you write. So what I have for my parentheses, because this is a plus sign, then my two signs are going to be, again, negative, negative. I know my variable in this case is x, so I can put that in. X minus. Okay. I know 1 and 3 are going to be in the later part of each of these, so I know that that's going to have to be in that slot. Now I know it doesn't matter because the signs are both the same. The signs are both minus sign. It doesn't matter which slot I put it in. It's going to be the same for both. So now I'm just looking at 1, 12, 2, and 6, 3, and 4. Now I know, because we pulled the greatest factor out, I can actually eliminate through some of these options being in a certain slot. I will not have a situation if I pulled the GCF out completely where a factor will pair up with another factor. What do I mean by that? Well, 1 and 12. 12 will not go here because you could factor something out of 12 and 3. 6 could not go here because I would be factoring something out of the 6 and 3. And then this 3 would not go here because it would be factoring out I would be factoring out the 3 and 3. Knowing that, it helps me eliminate the number of possible choices that I would have. Now, this is only true if you factored out everything completely in that first step. So if I didn't factor out that 2 in the beginning, I would have to check every single combination. And as you can see, the numbers are bigger, so you would end up having to check more factors. So again, looking for patterns and realizing that is going to help us out. Some students start at the top with 1 and 12. Some students start at the bottom with 3 and 4. It doesn't matter where you start. You can start in the middle. It's fine. What I would recommend, though, is get a pattern that you feel comfortable with until you start seeing, like, oh, I know that this middle number, this negative 13x, this number is different than the other two in this way. So you'll start seeing the patterns. As you see them, then you'll know, oh, I need to pick this one. For me, I'm going to go start with 1 and 12. So, again, I'm not going to put the 12 over here, so I need to put the 12 on this side. And then 1. So let's see, that's a negative 1x, and then negative 36x, so negative 37. Definitely not it from a middle term, so that can't be it. And then, let's see, 2 and 6, so 6 would have to go here, 2 would go here. So 6 times negative 3 is negative 18, and then 1 times 2 is 2, so it's negative 20. Oh, that won't work. Oh, and I'm looking at the wrong thing. I'm looking at negative 13x. Whew. Need to look at the right term. Neither one still worked. I'm going to underline this so I don't miss it. This is the one I'm checking, not the negative 26. Ooh. Ooh. And then 3 and 4. So 3 here, 4 here. So 3x and negative 3 is negative 9x. And then negative 1 and 4 is negative 4x. Negative 9x and negative 4x is that negative 13x. So this is the set that I want. I want the 3x minus 1 in parentheses times 4x minus 3. Again, I showed you how I was able to eliminate some of the choices just by knowing the factors and how that worked. And the last one I want to work with you is number 16. It's 8x squared minus 2x minus 15. There is no GCF that we can pull out first, so there is nothing to do with that slot. Again, my factors 1 and 8, 2 and 4. And then my factors for 15 is going to be 1 and 15, and 3 and 5. So now that I know that these are my factors, I can jump in with my parentheses. I know I'm going to have an x. Because this is a minus sign, we're going to have 1 plus, and 1 minus. So I'm going to have x plus, and then x minus. Kind of put that a little bit too close for comfort for me. So I'm going to rewrite it over off the side. What I recommend doing in these situations is just to rewrite. Don't try and cram things in. Mr. Brumman's life advice. So what we have here, the factors of, let's see, so 1 and 8, 2 and 4, 1 and 15, 3 and 5. Okay, so let's jump in. Let's start with 1 and 8, and then 1 and 15. That seems kind of, that seems like it's going to give me large numbers. I really want this negative 2x. That's going to happen if I have numbers that are more closer together. So instead of starting with 1 and 8 and 1 and 15, seeing that this negative 2x is kind of a small number, it's closer to 0, I'm actually going to start with 2 and 4 and the 3 and 5 instead. So I'm going to start 2 and 4. Again, I'm just putting these randomly down for now. You'll be able to see some patterns soon. 2 and negative 5 gives me negative 10. 3 and 4 gives me a positive 12. And I'm writing this out so you can see that I'm really close. In fact, if I add these together, I get a positive 2x, not a negative 2x. So everything is right except the signs. So when you have a situation like this where you have you get the right value, but you don't end up with the right sign, so the right number but not the right sign, this is a very easy fix. What I'm going to do is just interchange 2 and 4. So 4 goes here, 2 goes here. Then I'm also going to interchange 3 and 5. Now watch what happens. So now what I have is I have 5 and 2x is 10x. And then if I multiply 4x times negative 3, I have negative 12x. So when you have a situation like that with the signs, all you need to do is just switch everything coefficients-wise, and then you'll get the right value for signs. So this is 4x plus 5, parentheses, times 2x minus 3. And that is the factor of 8x squared minus 2x minus 15. Again, so just to kind of recap, the numbers, when they're smaller in your B term, you want to pick kind of numbers that are further away from 1 in that number. So in this case, I picked 2 and 4 and 3 and 5. When you have numbers that are larger, then what you want to do is, like we did over here with this one, you want to pick numbers that are more closer to, in this case, 1 and 3 was the one that was kind of locked in, and then it ended up having to be 3 and 4. But if you end up with a rather large number, then we probably would have had to have picked the 1 and 12. For example, we ended up with 37x on one of them, so if this middle term was 37, that's how you get that. Hope that's helpful. If you have any questions, reach out to your instructor and let them know. Have a wonderful day.